And welcome to another episode of The Modern Nerd. I am GJC.
No, you're not.
I'm Timbo Slice.
And I guess I'm merchandise for the day. I don't know.
And we are, as always, massive nerds.
I got your name wrong. I wasn't ready.
This doesn't matter. It's
Oh my
all
god.
it's all on the screen right here. And if you've never seen this before, I'm Sir Slice. That's Merchandise and GJC. Welcome to the pod. We're having a good time here. Before we talk about The Flash, I'm going to go ahead and, as always, give out a very large shout out to my two co hosts here. As previously mentioned, right next to me on either side. Thank you very much for doing this. And if you are watching at home, probably not live because it's fucking Tuesday at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, but
Why?
I will appreciate you guys who are watching. If you're checking this out on the YouTube channel, this is your first time watching, make sure to give that like and subscribe button a little clickety click and, tune in for more content. Otherwise, here we go. We have all now finally watched The Flash after a little bit of coaxing. I saw it in theaters. George did not. You saw it at home?
I saw it at home.
And Dan saw it at home. So we had, pretty much. I had the only different experience out of all of this. I'm curious, Dan. Why don't you just finished this movie after time of recording? So what did you think, there, fella?
Well, this movie was, there was a lot of things happening. There were a lot of multiverses. I have a multiverse of opinions. I kind of liked some things. I didn't like some things. I thought some things were good. I thought some things were bad. It felt sad that this was the reason Michael Keaton brought back Batman. I feel like he needed a stronger outing. It felt like there was a lot of things that they should have. I don't know. I can't honestly say I don't know what they could have done differently, but it's the bar is low for DC, and it's made the mark. It's kind of like New Barry figuring out his powers, just kind of skidding over the finish line. It didn't. One moment it hit, the next moment you're like, it was. I'm a Flash fan, and I like that kind of action. But when your graphics budget is presumably less than $5,000 and looks to the same quality of The Matrix Reloaded from 20 years ago, kind of pulls you out of it for a little bit. And you're kind of like, oh, it's cool, look what he's doing. Oh, but his face looks like he's a 30-year-old newborn. There was a lot pulling me in, a lot pulling me back. It was, for what it was, there were fun moments. And Ezra Miller, I got no comment on him. I was excited for him, and he's somehow not canceled, still in this movie. Director says if he does a sequel, he's keeping him. What the fuck? So
There's
overall,
no sequel to this movie.
I mean, that's he says if there was one, but regardless, I didn't have a bad time. But I wish that as a Flash fan that it was better.
I did not have a good time in this movie. Which were there like some cool scenes that looked fun and everything and had some good action at moments? I think so. I can't even be like, man, that one moment. Like there was a couple of cool scenes towards the end. But other than those, I didn't really care for most of it. Like, you had that mid-movie scene where Newberry is learning how to get his powers again, and he runs and burns all his clothes off and ends up naked and causes chaos. I'm like, yeah, all right, like it's been done and it's been done better. And I didn't really care for it. It didn't hit for me. It really just felt like a trope, and I was like, it shouldn't feel like one. If you're gonna do it, that's fine, but kind of make it your own, and they really didn't. Speaking of Newberries, that is the worst character ever created for any superhero movie. I really wish that was not a choice that they decided to go with, because why? Like, I already was complaining a little bit how annoying the Flash was, and they were like, "Oh, you think that shit was annoying? Turn that shit up to 11!" Like it was real, real, real cringy and just not good. And they made like they didn't make a dick joke. They legit said a penis joke, which is just not the same when you're really getting down to the dick and fart jokes. This is 2023. Like the star has a whole bunch of bullshit behind him. Cut that scene. Like we know that this guy is under like there's just a bunch of little scenes that I'm like that is not what you're supposed to be doing here at all. Thank you very much. Okay, let me try and think of something good. They mentioned Eric Stoltz in
I
Back to
know,
the Future.
hilarious.
Like I don't know. Like I got it just that from the start it looked real bad. We got Ben Affleck again. That was cool. Um, uh, you know, uh, the other part that I can't do any cool because the ending where you meet Batman, not at the end, but in the middle, that was a weird scene. Like that was a super weird scene. He's like long haired in his underwear and like that's not Batman. Like you didn't like okay anyway, but you get this character back and I don't know if these were reshoots, but I feel like the scenes they chose or the takes they chose were very much like I'm Batman. I'm like that's not you didn't I just phoned that in and he did worse than I did and it just didn't it didn't hit for me. You kept spoilers. You have the entire reason this movie people wanted to see this movie was literally Michael Keaton. And you killed him 4 times. Not once. Four. Three, four. Why? Why would you do that? Why would you do that? It just like, hey, you remember that thing you love and cherish? You fuck you, almost stabbed a shit. Like it's just unnecessarily rude. And Sasha Kaye, I don't know how to say her last name, had an amazing potential, and I was
Eh,
excited. I was excited to be like, oh look,
she
they
was
they
also
cast
very much phoning it in.
right. That's what I'm saying. There was this potential going into the movie of this
Mm.
character being cool and interesting and like a little different than the version that they have from the Superman, and nothing. Just nothing. Like she left and then came back and said like, "Oh, why do you do what you do?" And then fought on their side. I'm like, "What the hell is happening?" And even in an interview, even Michael Shannon kind of was at one point was like, "Why am I coming back as Zod? Like I don't. I was done with this character. That character is done. He was dead. I okay. Anyway." And so I was like, "All right." So for me, this movie just really didn't do anything at all. It should have been scrapped, and we should have been watching Batgirl. That's what should have happened because I think more people would have had a good time in Batgirl than this because it wasn't this because this was bad. And if they scrap Batgirl, I don't know. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know why. I don't know what's good over there or what's bad. I'm sorry. I'm about to go on a rant. George? Fine.
Mm.
Oh, okay. I don't know why. Oh, I was muted because I was being loud over here. Sorry. I'll start over. In case this is not in the VOD, you could just edit this part. They could hear me, but it was muted on stream because I was being loud here. Sorry. You can
All right.
edit this out if you want. um, can
All
you
right.
hear me now?
Yeah.
They should be able to hear me now.
Can we get a confirmation on George here? Let me turn on the
They can
George
hear
say
me.
something
Hi.
again.
Hello?
Yep. Yeah, you're good.
I wasn't talking for like the first 5 minutes of the show. That's why. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna go do something while they let out what they have to say. Like in many
We
ways, I
miss you.
feel like I'm just not encumbered by like having known the Flash as well as you guys do. You guys are like hardcore Flash fans. I assume both of you watched the whole show on the CW or most of it.
No,
I actually
3
didn't.
seasons.
Yeah, I stopped at about season
Okay, so you guys have watched some
5.
of it. You guys are all like real Flash fans, and like Tim, I know you obviously have read like the comics and stuff like that. Or
Some, yeah.
yeah, so like you know a lot more about him and like a lot of the lore that's behind it. And like in many ways, it's a blessing not to be encumbered by that, because I feel like I enjoy this movie like in many ways more because I like went into it with no expectations and no things in the background. I will say some of the shortcomings of it is that like you're kind of left like the people who made this show or this movie couldn't decide whether or not to like assume the audience knows things about the Flash or not, right? Like they kind of like cherry picked, like they're like, oh sure, like we're just not going to talk about this background important thing in his life that much, and like skip over some things like that we just assume people know, that like, oh, you know, like from what character, if no one knew anything about the Flash and all they seen is the stuff that DC had presented to them, like
In the movies?
yeah, in the movies, like there would be like this movie kind of feels like it starts sort of like with very little background. I guess a lot of it is that you discover the background as the movie and story unfolds, but it's like characters that we thought like that are supposed to have impact in his life, people who like don't know anything about the Flash probably were like, okay, I don't know why this chick is important, or I don't know why these people that are his quote unquote roommates are important. I like don't know any of the characters in his life other than Flash himself, right? I kind of knew he had a dad that was in jail. I don't know why he's in jail, you know, because they talk about that a little bit in the previous movies. I think he mentions that his dad is in jail. Other than that, like,
Yeah. I don't know.
who
that
are
they
these
did
people
mention
that are
why.
like randomly like this random reporter named Iris, this girl he has a crush on, I guess, who's supposed to be like, I felt like I was missing out on the significance of some of the people that were like introduced in his life, you know? And maybe that's because I know nothing about any of the characters in the Flash stories. So I don't know. But
That's
aside
kind
from
of
that, in
true.
many ways, that's lucky because I have no expectations going into it. I'm not encumbered by any of the like background, you know, that is to do with like previous incarnations of Flash. I don't give a shit about it. Like I'm like, I don't care if it's canon. I don't care if it's close to what it is in the comic. Who cares if it fucks up the DCU? It's already fucked anyway. So like, I went into it like whatever. Like I'm allowed. Like this is a roller coaster ride. I'm in it to like ride it, and like I paid for admission, and like
As well.
like I'm good. Like you know like, do you know what I'm saying? I'm good. Like I'm not gonna be salty about it because I went into it with like, who cares? Like, you know, did I enjoy what I saw? Kind of. Did I also have criticisms
Like-
as to how well this movie was done, like
That's
graphically and digitally and all that? Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Hey, yeah, you know, I mean, yeah, like George was saying, like I'm kind of on the same like the
Who cares?
the DC universe is a sinking ship. Might as well grab some free fudge
Yeah.
that has some salt water on it before you get off the boat. Like,
yeah,
you know, it's all going down anyway. Like,
it's
it
like your
is what
last
it
day on the
is.
cruise. Like, you're like, the buffet's open. I'm gonna take food with me. I'm gonna eat. What are you gonna do? Kick me off the
I'm not
ship?
invested in this ship, but I might as well take advantage of it while it's going down.
Exactly.
You know what I
Like
mean?
they're not gonna serve that shit. I'm gonna take that food with me now. What are you gonna do? Kick
Yeah.
me off the ship? Like I'm leaving today.
This is my stop. Okay. Thanks. George, you brought up an interesting point.
I love this metaphor.
I did not think about it from a point of view of somebody who didn't know anything about the Flash, and I think you made it. I think you made me hate the movie more, because when you do think about it, like you look at the other movies, they didn't explain anything. Flash never really got a proper origin. And
None.
yes, you kind of see the origin in the new Barry because they recreated it, but that's not his origin. That's not how he handled the situation. That's not what events took place after he got his powers. And I think that's kind of what this movie and frankly the Justice League was lacking was you don't know anything about where this character has been, what this character has been through, why are they here, why am I watching this movie, other than the fact that hey, he's the guy from that Justice League movie. Like that's it. Like
Yeah.
there's no draw, and I think the Flash, he's a pretty big superhero for DC. I would put him up there in the upper echelon here, but the amount of people that know his story, and not just oh he got struck by lightning and a bunch of chemicals, but
I
like
didn't
know
even
his
know that.
story
I
of
don't
how
know
he
that.
got to understand his powers, what he went through, what loss he's had to suffer, what personal turmoils he has. You still wouldn't know that by the end of this movie, other than he awkwardly met somebody that he already met in college in Iris West. Like it didn't
Yeah.
make any sense.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, that's more points against the movie.
Yeah.
Um,
I will say for me that I know for a fact if I hadn't been a Flash fan and had some prior knowledge, I would be, knowing myself, really annoyed at how his mom actually died in the first place. There's no mention of anything. And now Tim and I know what happened to her because we're fans of the Flash. But if you're not, you're just kind of like, so wait, what? Did she fall on the knife? Like, we still don't understand who murdered her, how, why.
I'm okay with not knowing.
You
That's
are?
I'm okay with it. I feel like that's
That was
something,
the
you
whole
know,
point of the
if they
movie,
no, but I
though.
feel like no, the whole point of the movie is that like I feel like the point of the movie for me, at least the lesson I learned, is the same lesson that's like almost always taught with quote unquote time travel and like multiverse style stories is you like don't fuck with fucking fate. Like don't mess that shit up.
I agree,
That's
but he
exactly
at least
like what
could've-
happened in Spider-Man too.
he was there. He could have seen what happened at least, and the thought didn't even cross his mind.
well,
Like
that's
just whole,
the
He was
kicker
trying
is
to change as
wait a
little as
minute.
possible.
The thought that did
Right?
cross his
Like-
mind was he actually changed something.
He
Like
did.
even like
He
you're not
saved his
supposed to
dad.
do anything. He
what
still did it.
happened or why. Like how?
I know
Like,
that's.
to me would be like that's kind of big, man. You're missing a big chunk
I
of this
feel like
thing.
it's
Like
a bigger kick in the pants to us to be like, oh, it's time travel or it's alternate universe. Don't change anything. But like he still didn't learn his lesson
No,
and
he didn't. He
change
still
something.
changed
And it's
something.
like of the decisions to make. Why did he do that? Like it just was dumb. I'm agreeing with you, Smirch.
I
It was
think
real
it's
dumb.
interesting because the decision I think the moral balance of that is the decision he changed didn't affect what happened to his mom per se, but affected
None
what
of
happened
this-
to his present. Do you know what I'm saying? His immediate
but
like
it's just-
moment when
it's
the
just-
time that he went back to.
Moreover, if we're gonna, okay, I'm just spoiler alert for comics. It's pretty much more or less generally known that the Reverse Flash, Eobard Thawne, who is Barry's rival, started this whole thing off. Not starting off, because time is whatever. It's a circle. Killed his mom, but I'm sorry, but making sure his dad is home by not going to the store would not stop Eobard Thawne. I don't know. That to me, it's like he could still do it. So I'm just confused as to how just him making sure his dad stayed home kept his mom alive. That's, I mean, it's
That's interesting. Sure, I don't know.
I
Maybe
don't
that's
know.
not who killed him in the DCU. Maybe that wasn't the plan. Maybe they never wanted to introduce that character.
Like, there's no harm in looking. You can like look, but don't touch, Barry. Like, come on. Like, what happened? Anyway, that's just my own little beef.
I was okay with it. I didn't even think about that. I was just like, oh, okay, he cleared his father.
Okay. Well, I'm amazed.
That was fine, I guess. The only I'll do another takeaway. The only thing that I kind of take away from this movie that I enjoyed a little bit, not a ton, was the CGI again comes into question. Was pretty bad during these scenes, but when he's in that, it's not even a fucking cosmic treadmill or a speed treadmill anymore. It's whatever the hell that bubble arena looking thing is. But you get to see all these worlds kind of colliding and a little dip into them. I feel like it was a little. I was like, oh, you got George Reeves and Christopher Reeves and those representations of Superman, but then you also get to see the thing that never happened, which I really want to happen. If you're gonna do throwaway movies, Give me more Nick Cage as Superman in Superman Lives. That was cool. I was like, cool, yeah, that was fun. Like that's the kind of
funny.
little nod and fun thing I want to see, because I was like, cool, this is a throwaway movie. It's the end of an era for DC, and they threw some shit in there. Maybe that was part of it originally, maybe it wasn't. But then at the end, when you see he comes back into his universe, he's like, everything is fine, cool, my dad got off, look, no consequences. And then Bruce Wayne steps out of the car and it's George Clooney. Like that, I was like, okay, that's kind of neat, because Clooney, like, he spent his entire career just shit talking every moment he can about Batman and Robin.
Yeah,
And
because he
now
had a terrible fucking experience.
and
I
now
wouldn't blame him.
he puts his suit back on, and he's suit, not Batman suit, and was Bruce. And I was like, that's kind of funny.
He probably
Like,
took
and
a
that's-
nice paycheck just for shooting 5 seconds of
I'm
fucking
sure.
film.
But that's the kicker for me, is that if I'm walking away, me, a massive comic book nerd fan, who, if you go back and watch most of these episodes of reviews of movies and TV shows, I pretty much enjoy most of them. I'm coming away with the best parts are the dumbest cameo moments in the movie, then you know it's a real bad fucking movie. And I can't with this one. I was gonna watch it a second time, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. I still might, and if I do, I'll let anyone know if it doesn't, it hits any differently or anything. But
the money question: where does it rank on the other DCU movie list for you, Tim?
that's tough, because Justice League and Batman versus Superman were both garbage.
Okay.
They're all pretty bad. I don't know.
I have to say, in the grand scheme of DCU movies, this is on the upper part of it.
That's so sad.
Because
what else is in the upper part then? You guys,
I mean, I
guess
something. Wonder Woman, and I mean, if you're gonna like get into it, I mean, I guess the Harley Quinn movie and the most recent Suicide Squad. And Wonder Woman, I guess, and probably like this is probably, I don't know, 4th or 5th on that list.
I mean, let's think about it for a second, because all the duds are Justice League, Wonder Woman 84,
Aquaman.
Arguably, yeah. I enjoyed Aquaman a lot more than I liked this, because Aquaman had cool action. And this really didn't for me. There's a couple of scenes.
I think I blinked.
Aquaman was the most forgettable movie ever.
I purposely blocked that out of my memory.
Aquaman had too much happening. It tried to do too many things and be massive, and it didn't land. But
I just know Nicole Kidman was in it.
I would put this probably second or third to last.
Okay.
It's almost a tie between Justice League, Batman versus Superman, and Flash. Because I really, it just was, it mostly was because of that second Barry. Like, that's his laugh in this movie. And like, why do I have to sit here and suffer for 2.5 hours through this horribly written character who does nothing but make immature, stupid jokes that were funny 15 years ago when Family Guy made them, and watch it again in live action? And
it was 18 years old.
Yeah, it was, but it was bad. It was real bad. And I've seen Ezra Miller do good things and have a great potential. Now, he is not great off the screen, but he has some great potential. And this is what you hand me when you're given the time and opportunity to chew a scene and work your way through it and set it up and knock it down, and instead you're kind of tripping over yourself, and it just was not. I couldn't with that. And then you just had two shells of characters for supporting characters in Batman and Supergirl. They were just costumes. That's all they were. They did nothing. Although there was someone made a point. The Batman action scenes were pretty kick-ass.
Every scene that Batman is
Batman's
doing
awesome.
Batman shit in this is awesome.
Michael
And
Keaton's the
whether
greatest
it's-
Batman there
Whether
is.
it's Keaton or Affleck, and that I will say that spans all of DCU so far with Affleck. Anytime Affleck is doing Batman shit on
Badass
the screen,
shit.
it's great. It's really good. I think maybe like maybe the Batman suit is like you don't have to animate it that well because it's black, so it can get away with like being cheaply animated. But I don't know. It works for me. Anytime I'm seeing Batman do Batman shit, in any of these movies, I'm like, yes.
I did not expect Gal
hits.
Gadot. Speaking while we're at it, I didn't expect Gal Gadot to show up. I did not expect her to just
Stop
show
with
up
that.
randomly for 2 seconds, 5 seconds on screen. Just in the beginning of the film too, of all places. I was just like, oh, okay. I guess that's like,
I
oh,
feel
wait, like Wonder Woman. Okay, that's all right.
I feel like
Okay.
that's the biggest, like, I feel like that's almost an insult. You know what I
I
mean?
guess.
Like, I feel like they're like beating the dead horse in front of our face because it's like, the character you liked is gonna only exist in cameo scenes from now on, and you're like, it did not need it was dumb. And then again, there was more sex and sex jokes and shit, and I was like, would you stop with that right now? Like, none of these scenes seemed they just pull
Fuck.
away.
What do they say? It gabs. Oh damn it! The stupid made up saying he had, like it gills, dude. I forget what it was.
I don't know.
I
The
was trying to remember it.
whole thing.
I already forgot.
I will say this. I'm gonna put this out in the world.
beeves?
If anybody, any day,
It beefs, dude.
It beeves.
it's stupid.
It says it beefs.
That was dumb.
I
You
thought that was
interrupted me
really-
for it beefs.
because like that just sums up the whole thing. So it's like, what are you doing? Like this is like, I mean, but also it's like, I didn't hate this as much as you, Tim. I thought that
I don't
the
either. Yeah, I don't know
dynamic
why you seem to hate this movie. It's so
thing-
weird.
It's really.
I feel like maybe it's because you really
enjoyed.
enjoyed The Flash, and you're just like, you're ruining something
Man,
that
It's
you
not even
enjoy.
it's not even my favorite.
I know, but like,
I liked the scene where he's like, he kind of gets, it's like not an origin story, but he gets this new origin story, and like the kind of like brotherly thing they have going on. Yeah, he's
yeah, I
annoying,
like the
but it was,
concept
like,
of it.
It was kind of like a fun dynamic, and I think he kind of got to show off. Like, I never felt like those two guys were like animated together. Like, it really seemed like these two guys were like running around doing shit together.
Yeah.
They look
so-
fine.
And like I don't know, I wasn't like loving it, but I was like, this is entertaining, like this is funny, like this is goofy, like the whole like thing with like different actors being different people, like him like phasing through, getting naked. It's
Yeah.
not amazing shit, but it was just fun shenanigans, you know.
was-
Like
It
I don't
was-
know.
I
It
think
was
like
unnecessary.
I feel like
If
you're
there's- wait,
upset
hold on.
about a lot of the
Hold on.
things.
I
Like
think it was necessary, actually.
like
if-
you're
if
upset
there's
about a
one
lot of the
time-
typical Flash tropes that they called upon, like in the beginning, you know. And
not
I feel
even.
like that's not necessary
gonna-
because like most audiences watching this probably have never seen any of those tropes, like
Exactly.
at all.
I'm sure they have. Most of this audience grew up with The Incredibles. They grew up with, they had to have seen
I
some
never
other
seen no
speedster.
fucking
They may
getting
have-
nobody
anybody
phasing
who's
through
going
no
to-
fucking shit and getting naked
Anybody
in
who's going
Incredibles.
to see this movie has seen, probably seen X-Men, where you have what's his name doing all of these speedster things in a way cooler fashion than anything that happened in this movie. When you had Quicksilver doing it in the X-Men movies, like those were cool speed scenes.
But he each got one scene. You know what I mean?
And it was better than any scene in this movie.
Yeah, because they put all this. Then the rest of the time he's in the movie, he's just not doing anything. Like, that's to me. This at least he was like, to me it felt like anytime he didn't have his like cool scene with the cool like song, he was just immediately nerfed or like not there. Like at least here in this, he was able to, like run around and still do shit and not be like confided to one single cool scene. Like, don't get me wrong, I love those scenes. But the rest of the time when he's not doing his thing in those scenes with Quicksilver, like he's just standing by or not there, and it's just like, why do you introduce you if you're just going to take him away? At least like Barry's like still running around and doing, I mean, granted, there's not like
running around and being annoying.
Listen, I agree, Tim. Like, it's not great. It's not good shit. But if you like say that part is unnecessary, like yeah, like the whole
Barry,
that
movie
the
is,
young Barry is supposed to be annoying. Like he's supposed to get on
Why
your
though?
nerves.
Why?
What do you mean,
Why
why?
does he have to be that annoying? Okay,
Because he's
hold on.
only 18.
Hold on.
because he grew up with
Wait,
a
just wait.
mom who loved
Wait.
him, and he was in
Let me-
like. Felt,
Let me hold on. If there is a time in DC's history where they should have a darker type movie, it's a movie about this, about one of the heaviest moments in the Flash's history, where he
But
has to go back and save his mom.
What does
You're
that mean
trying
to the
pull these
general audience
emotional
who doesn't
strings
know anything about
and
that
make me
shit?
care about Barry, who has to
That's
go
the whole-
back and live with his parents, and he's trying to save his mom. You're trying to invoke this emotion of like, oh
Right.
man, Barry, I feel really bad for you. But every time you try and invoke one of those emotions, all you get is other Barry coming in and doing some dumb fucking
Because
thing, pulling
Barry,
away
the
from the
other
scene.
Barry, grew up with his mom,
That
and that's
doesn't
why he has
mean
this
you're-
happy-go-lucky, like kind of like attitude
Right, that's the
about
whole
things.
point,
That
though,
doesn't
Tim.
mean
That's
you're
the whole
de
point. They want
facto
you to.
annoying.
There's that scene where he yells at
I
him inside the
disagree.
cave.
I grew up with a mom. Am I de facto annoying? Like that doesn't make any
No,
sense.
but
Just
you're
because he
not
grew up with his
Barry.
parents.
Barry's a different person,
And he was
this
only
is
18 too.
who grew up
Also,
with a
he's
mom.
just a kid.
It makes sense since Barry's kind
Wait,
of
wait.
like
Can I just say
crazy,
the
like,
reason why they made Barry annoying
no
is
point.
because there's that scene in the cave where like he confronts him and is like, you don't know how good you have it and you don't take anything seriously. Well, first of all, he's just a kid. He just came. This is
I
his
get
first
that.
year in college. So like, imagine who you were at 18. Tim, I knew you at 18. You were pretty fucking annoying.
I'm sure I was.
And if you had to deal with you right now when you were 18, you'd think that kid is pretty fucking annoying too. So I'm
Yeah,
going to put that.
but
You were an
there's-
asshole when
there's-
you were 18. I'm going to put that out there. So
there's a difference.
you were a real
between-
fucking dick when you were 18. So I'm going to put that out
To
there.
be entertaining in a movie for 2 hours. That was not what I had to
But
do
my point
at 18.
is he's supposed to be annoying because there is that scene that where he's like, you don't know how
cannot-
good you have it. And
it's
that creates this thing.
unnecessary.
And Barry, where he has to go and find out why this other older Barry is such a fucking dick and such a kill sport and won't let me enjoy this. That creates this whole seed of him eventually becoming a villain. It's an important plot point for him to be annoyed by younger Barry. Like that's
Sure,
the whole
but you don't
point.
have to make him like the.
Why?
You
Then you
don't
have to make him as
do it to
annoying
the
as possible.
extreme.
Because you have to get that
He's-
same invoke.
No,
You have to invoke
no,
that feeling from
no,
the
you have
audience
to
as well,
have-
not just the actor. Like you have to be
a
able to.
character. He's a caricature. He is an animation version of
What a
someone
bad-
else. He's not an actual human being in this movie. That character is not written in a way where someone can be like, "Oh, I get it. He's aloof and can be blah blah. He's got a family and everything's great and he's allowed to be annoying because he's a little teenager." He was an exaggeration to the umpteenth degree.
I mean,
there is a way to do it, and
Sure.
I'm not disagreeing
That's-
with
no,
you. The
no, I
character
get it.
needs to be. You need a polarizing moment, but
Sure.
you can't just shove these jokes down somebody's throat. You can't just
I mean-
shove, like, oh man, I don't know what you're talking about. He
in that
sounds like-
same vein, I will put that in the
it's
same
so
scenario as
overly
like
done.
what. In that same vein, I will say that is the same problem that they had with
But
his name?
also-
Shazam. That's the same problem they have with Shazam too.
exactly.
Like they don't know
Exactly.
how to write for
They're not
a child
characters.
of appropriate, not child, but just anybody for appropriate age. When it's someone who's supposed to be younger, they just automatically make him really goofy like that, and that's just DC's problem in general.
like
I'm not
something
like I'm not hung up on
Just-
that. Like
that's a great point, George. Like we kind of just like whatever. Shazam wasn't great or anything, but we just accepted like all right, like Zachary Levi is just like a little bit better at being a kid than the actual kid, and you accepted it went forward. Like I'm just confused as to why Tim just decided off the bat like
to like
I'm
hang
not
his
the
hat
problem.
on this, plant his flag on this
With
hill.
that,
Like
too.
it just seems like something to get so strange to get
It's
hung up
just
on. But
so-
you know, whatever.
It's so overly exaggerated. to
Okay,
the
so
point
then
where
you're like
it-
upset with
there
his
was-
performance, and you're upset with the way that like this character is written, like, and you feel like they
Yeah.
should have toned it down more. Is like
and
what
that's
you're
like
saying.
a core. It's a core
Okay.
building foundation of a movie about a character. Like this movie is about
I just think like
those
I get
two
it, like
people.
because I'm more forgiving because I feel like the people who wrote this film were like, okay, we need to like invoke this emotion from the people, and maybe it's a cheap out to make them super mad, annoying, and like a little over the top, but like that just seems to be like I'm not going into it expecting miracle Oscar writing,
Yeah,
you know, like I just
I mean,
is it
why
they-
can't we
like,
have that?
you
I'm
know
so
how like they
tired of
needed
this
like
bullshit.
it's like when
Tim,
you need a
We're
nail to
still
hang a
gonna get it.
picture
We're not going to.
and you
I
have
know
like
we're
a small
not.
nail, but you have like a giant fucking hammer to like
Tim's just
nail a small
setting
nail.
himself up for sadness
Right.
and frustration, man. It's
There's
a
no,
DCU
like-
movie. Like
The
nothing's
writing in
gonna
DC
come-
has no
nothing's gonna be
finesse,
good.
and you know that. Like, what did you expect? Like, they are
Something
not.
more.
They're not
Something
fine
just a
brushes. They're
little-
broad strokes. They
That
are
was-
like they are.
They
They
you
paint.
shouldn't have done that.
they paint large, they're
did not-
industrial painters. They're not fucking Picasso and fucking Sistine Chapel painters.
I did not expect to go into this movie enjoying it, but what they gave me was so far from enjoyment that it really irked me that, like, I think it's it all compiled or compounded into this moment, because like you do look at like Shazam, and you look at like even any of the Justice League movies, and all this stuff that they've written is like you don't have any like real characters that are written very well. I mean, like you could argue that like Harley Quinn was written pretty well amongst her outings. She was interesting, but like there's not really any very good characters in the DCU, and like you have this opportunity with personal issues aside, a wonderful actor. Like in front of the camera, he's amazing, and he's done some really cool shit. But then I'm just like fed this dribble of like a caricature of a character, and it gets compounded because there's nothing else to this movie. There's nobody else to pick up any weight or any slack. Because you've got a tired old Michael Keaton. I mean, I love him. He's done some amazing shit recently too. But you got this tired old Batman. You got this non-existent Superman. You've got Zod somehow and some reason that is in this movie. Which, why change that? Why do that? Like it just. I guess
because they were trying to rip off Avengers Endgame, man.
I read the Flashpoint comic books. I saw the Flashpoint animated movie, and what they tried to do with Flashpoint in the Flash TV show. Every different medium took a different approach, and that's fine, and I get that. And you're not going to get shot for shot, panel for panel, something from a comic book. I loved that they did it as Supergirl, and I loved that they did it as alternate universe Batman as opposed to Thomas Wayne Batman. Like I thought these were some really interesting choices, and they could have been great, and so like I was like, all right, this could be interesting. Like let's see what they do. If this Supergirl is supposed to represent that version of Superman, then this is going to be an intense performance. And then it's literally nothing. It's a cool looking costume with a cape, and then a old ass Batman with long hair and a beard that looked like the worst beard I've ever seen in my life. And it's just every turning point where I was like, cool, we're gonna get new Batman, we're gonna get old Batman back. Nothing. Oh, we're gonna get like Supergirl. Nothing. Oh, we're gonna learn a little bit more about like his relationship with Iris West. Nothing. You're gonna give me something about like they gave me nothing. Literally nothing. Every other DC movie did something.
Guys,
I'm so surprised, right? He is like incredibly harsh about this. The harshest I've ever heard him on any.
You, dude, I don't understand. Like,
yeah, I'm real surprised.
What else could Michael Keaton have done, dude? Like, he showed up, he said, I'm Batman, he's old, he's tired, he busted out the gadgets, you saw the Batmobile, you saw the Batwing, he flew out of it, he did, like, what else could he have done? They gave you, like, what they could, as best as they could have done. The DCU
and then they just ripped it out from under you. Like there was no point.
He was going to stick around for future movies.
What do you mean? There's
like
no,
he was supposed to be in the Batgirl movie. He was supposed to stick around. He was supposed to be here. That's what the whole premise was. And then they fucking changed it, man. Yes, that was the point. He was going to exist in this universe.
The DCU movies were supposed to be good. Like they were supposed to do justice to the characters, and they never have. So
disappointing.
All of a sudden, this high bar for this movie?
Yeah, I'm surprised you have such high expectations.
It's not a high bar. There's not a high bar. The bar was like, if this is the bar, if this is like MCU is up here, I'm trying to frame this right. MCU is off the screen, up at the top here. DC is way down here at the bottom. There was no substance. There was.
I guess I would have been salty if I paid money to go see this too.
Maybe that's
I would have been a little saltier. I've been like, this movie wasn't really worth the money.
Do you want to crowdfund you the money back to him? Is that really what this is?
Yeah,
about?
Like I watched it for free on HBO, so I'm okay with that.
I've ranted long enough, and I want to say on this movie.
I want to say like because these are just some quick points. Is like I want to say I came into it because I really wanted to see Michael Keaton. Michael Keaton was my favorite Batman, and still is, in my opinion, the best Batman, at least in my lifetime. So, but like I think what I saw of it, I really did enjoy, and he really did too. Like, I think I enjoyed what I saw, and I got, quote unquote, if I paid money, I got my money's worth as far as the Batman fix that I got from Michael Keaton. I didn't go into it with expectations, obviously, that he would be in the DCU or anything like that. None of those things are the same. That's the same thing with like Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire. I loved watching them like show up, but I have no expectations for their future in the MCU.
They at least acted.
Oh, sure. I mean, like, I think Michael Keaton did what he had to do for the role. Like, I don't know what.
I think he said the lines he was supposed to say.
I don't expect him to do anything else other than that. He did fine, and I got Mad Batman vibes, and I enjoyed like what I saw from him. I didn't expect anything more or less from him. You know, like, I'm fine with what I got.
We got cool action, but I got
yeah. I'm
else
glad that I got to see that Batman in like this weird, strange, like bizarro storyline that, you know, that saw weird ass Nicolas Cage as well. So that
was fun.
I had fun for what it was worth. Like, I don't need anything more.
It was poorly animated or not. I love
that's my biggest gripe is like I thought it was badly animated,
and like. And you know, that sucked, but I still like, I don't know, in terms of like a movie to watch, like, it was all right. I don't know.
The concept was great. Honestly, I thought the concept was really cool.
Either of the Shazam movies, like, you know, at least they had something happening.
It was a really good idea for a story, actually, honestly. I really thought this was a good story. Like,
well, yeah, this is like his best story ever told.
Right, it's a really good story. Like, the overall arching points of this story is actually a very clever story, you know, and but it rests on a lot of premises of like people having to understand and grasp these really large ideas of time travel and of alternate universe, and like their version of the alternate universe and multiverse compared to like the MCU version, and then like having to have Bruce Wayne explain it. All that stuff is like, you know, like it can be cumbersome, but in many ways this movie you know, try to make it as simple and glide it over that as easily as possible.
And that's,
you know, and I think in many ways that's actually good, because like the audience doesn't need that. Like,
yeah, it's overplayed, but yeah,
they don't need to be encumbered by that. So like, because you don't have to worry so much about that, in many ways it lets you just kind of enjoy the ride. You're not encumbered by like the quote unquote hard science behind it. Why none of this shit makes any sense.
I don't care about that stuff.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
but like
multiverse and time travel, I'm not going to sit here and complain about.
Right, but like, you know, I can't. I'm not going to nitpick it like that. You know, I don't have to, because they're not taking themselves that seriously.
Even for the Barlow, what was that post-credit scene? Even for like, what was there was literally no point to that.
What was the post-credit scene?
It was Aquaman drunk and he falls asleep.
Yeah, that was weird.
He goes to find Aquaman. But it's not Aquaman, really.
That was really stupid. But.
Look, I am glad that you guys got some enjoyment out of the movie. I'm always happy if somebody enjoys something. That's really what this, you know, most of what this podcast for me is all about is people enjoying the things that they
Big
enjoy.
Ideas,
Don't let my negativity sway anybody from seeing this movie. Go watch it if you want. It's fine. I'm sure some people will have a good time and some people won't.
Tim, you're in the general majority in that sense, though. A lot of people did not like this movie. Like, the majority of the people said this was a terrible movie. You know? But because I think me and Dan knew going into it that it didn't have necessarily the greatest reviews, we were like, okay. Like,
I mean,
we're like low expectations.
Good reviews, even though I saw it like opening weekend. Reviews came out for it before it came out, so I was like, okay, this movie's terrible, but let's go see it.
I wish I saw it with Dan. No. But probably not in theaters, I guess.
I mean, this is an interesting juxtaposition. Like, if we were doing a Marvel movie, I undoubtedly would be much harsher.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because I expect more from them.
Yeah,
and I just don't expect a whole lot from these guys.
Exactly.
I just don't like it.
There's a very low standard for DC.
I don't like it.
There you go.
That's really the end of it. I could have saved us all a lot of time. Like, it was bad. Next.
The audience score was high for this movie.
What is our future?
It's 83%.
That's odd to me.
Before we end the podcast, do we have any future ideas or things that people can look forward to on the next episode? We're gonna do, I guess, Ahsoka again, or you might.
In the next one, we'll. Oh shit! Ahsoka's airing while we're recording this, isn't it? So yeah, we'll probably have. We'll probably have another Ahsoka episode. This might be a heavy weekend then, and we may have 2 episodes up by the end of the
Okay.
weekend. But I mean, man, I don't know. Did anybody have any interest in seeing Blue Beetle? Like, like that came out, and it slipped completely under the
Oh
radar.
my god!
Again, an interesting
No.
character that could have a good potential, but George Lopez,
Oh
I
my
guess, is in this
God.
movie.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, just look for episodes. We're gonna have definitely
Ahsoka
more
for sure.
Ahsoka. We're
We're in
gonna
a bit
work
of
on
yeah.
we're gonna work on doing some lists and getting some other interesting
Mhm.
topics going on. Let's just bear with us on that. Otherwise, yeah, if I can't, I normally say if you've had a good time, but all I did was rant, so I don't know if
No,
anyone would
Tim, because
enjoy
we've all
listening
had a
to me
ranting
rant.
episode. It's okay.
So
No, we've all had ranting episodes.
some more than others, but
What?
hey,
What?
tough crowd. I'm
What?
losing to a rug. If you had a good time, we have been the Modern Nerd, and thank you for watching.